So we're going to remaster the HYDRA stat block for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. So there's not a lot that needs to change with the HYDRA. Fortunately, most of the maths is actually correct and works well for a challenge rating 8 monster. But we do need to make it a solo monster or a legendary monster, because really that's what it's going to be doing. It does not fight well with others. It's going to be on its own almost exclusively, so we need to build it that way. I have changed the armor class from a 15 to a 16 because that's more appropriate. Its hit points are essentially the same, but I would use between 255 to the average of 172, depending on the skill of your group. I have not changed the ability scores. I did give it a dexterity saving throw of +4 because it had no saving throws at all. It has a skill, athletics +8, because it's probably going to be grappled by somebody silly enough to do so. That should not be very easy to do, and also be pushed around potentially. So I've included that. And then condition immunities. I've given it frightened, grappled, and stunned. And why? Because I don't want the monk to just shut the monster down completely, and it's not really appropriate for a medium-sized creature to try and grapple a huge creature, or even if they transform themselves into large size. It's not very practical just because of the number of heads and the size of this creature. Frightened. Hydras aren't frightened of nobody. Its dark vision was 60 feet, it's now 120 feet. It's much better than what the players will have. It's now got legendary resistance once per round. You don't have to count or track it. There's no 3. Okay. Hold breath is the same. Multiple heads is pretty much the same apart from one thing. The saving throw, advantage on saving throws against being frightened, no longer applies because I have made it immune to that condition, so it doesn't need to worry about that. The damage you do to it to actually stop the heads growing is not just fire but also acid. I've included that. Reactive heads is the same. Wakeful, still the same. Now the actions, multi-attack is the same, and in fact the bite is identical, and the damage, I did not change that. I did give it though legendary actions, so it can take a legendary action at the end of every player's turn, so it scales with the size of your group. Now the thing here is standard actions aren't going to be that many because it's a HYDRA, it can only do so much. It's not a humanoid. So dash, dodge, search, kind of waste of your time, and shove are your options. Basic attack, the one bite attack, and that's it. But you can also make the HYDRA into different types of monsters, different types of HYDRAs. Now Pyro HYDRA is an example of this. Its maths is exactly the same. The only difference is it has got damage immunity to fire because it's going to be breathing fire, so we need to include this. The other thing is when we're dealing with the Pyro HYDRA, its attacks are essentially the same, but we do include as one of its actions fire breath, recharging on a 5 or a 6, and the Pyro HYDRA exhales a fire in a 30-foot cone. Each creature in that area must make a DC 16 dexterity saving throw or take 13 on average damage, or 2d12 fire damage. Okay, and that's on a failed save. Half as much damage if they succeed. It still has all its legendary actions, but we do not include the fire breath as part of the legendary action. And there you go, it's done. That is how to adjust and fix the HYDRA for Dungeons & Dragons 5e.